Hey everyone, I've got a banger for you today. I've got Seggy from the Paradigm Experience. If you don't know the Paradigm Experience, it's a channel that's blown up. It covers astral projection, out-body experiences, NDEs, and more. And today, me and Seggy, we talk about everything, really. We talk about all of those topics. We talk about how he got started. We talk about his experience as an explorer. And yeah, just way, way more. As always, please like, subscribe, hype. Everything you do helps the channel. Let's dive in.
Okay. So today I'm super pleased to have Seggy, host of the Paradigm Experience. Seggy's doing some awesome work, doing deep dive interviews, interviewing people across the spectrum from psychics, NDEs, astral travelers, OBEs, bringing a diversity of experience and perspective. And your work, Seggy, isn't just storytelling. It's like exploring beliefs, consciousness, personal transformation, the whole shebang. So thank you so much for making and taking up my invite to come on the channel and at 5 a.m. your time.
Yeah, all good. I mean, I'm super excited to be here. I watch your show. I've been subscribed to your show for a long time, so I'm super excited to be here. Thank you.
Amazing. So I want to start, like, what attracted to me is like, you've got an amazing show. I love your style as well, your approach. You're just like curiosity, like the way that the questions that you ask and things. But also, it's like, I feel like almost like we're a mirror image in some ways, like that we're kind of going on a similar journey in terms of like telling people, getting other people to tell their stories and stuff. So I thought having you on here would be amazing just for people to understand why you started your channel, what journey you're on, all of that. So I think my first question really is just about, were there any like first profound experiences that you had that made you, what was the thing that really got you to say, right, I'm going to start this channel, I'm going to start documenting these experiences, and I'm going to go on this journey myself of having a out of body experience?
Yeah, so I always laugh because I don't feel like my story is insanely interesting. I think the people that I speak to and you speak to are just like far more intriguing. Um, but yeah, I mean, I was raised religious, and so that plays a big role in my life. Just on a personal level, or like things that are going on in my head have always been like, why this, why that, and
Mm.
it led me down my own journey. Right, of I'm 33 now, so it's probably, gosh, I want to say it's like 27 years, Emma, of like real like questioning things and testing things out and going down some paths I probably shouldn't have. But now when I look back on it, I don't know, it's my journey, you know? So, once I got to a level-headed place where I'm not like taking a bunch of drugs anymore and I'm kind of like back in a normal, mindset, I guess is the best way to put it. I met my wife and, I had a family. And so like those questions started to pop up again of like, man, why, what, what is all this? I think that's just been the reoccurring theme in my head. And so, um, started doing meditation. That was the very first thing I started. And I did that for 6 months or so. And I'd stopped taking drugs. I was going to therapy. So I was kind of like, for the first time in a long time, seriously, since I was 18, where I was pretty clear headed. Like there wasn't anything bogging down my thoughts. I was me. And I want to say it was about 6 months in, I had this portal like pop up in my head. That's like ridiculous to say, but it's true. uh, and I remember looking at this portal and I was like, what is that? My eyes were closed. I started seeing colors. And this, again, it was like looking at a 4K screen. I mean, it was so vivid. There's no mistaking it. I mean, people ask me that all the time. They're like, well, how do you know it wasn't your brain? I'm like, well, I'm telling you, this, whatever it was real and it was in front of my face. That was my first kind of like, whoa, like what the heck was that kind of thing? That went away. Mm, I don't know how I came across NDEs, but that was my first like intro kind of into this like spiritual kind of world. I was like, what is going on here? And I was obsessed with them. At that time, I had a job, Emma, where I was driving about an hour and a half, roughly, give or take there and back. So I would listen to at least one ND experience a day, maybe two. I mean, I got pretty obsessed with them. And so I watched hundreds and hundreds, and I was like, man, this is so fascinating. Something about the life review, I think, really intrigued me. Um, Probably because something I've always like questioned as far as if there was a God or not is like, okay, well, if there is a God, why do all these bad things happen to people? Like, I just never understood that part. And a life review was kind of like it was the first answer where I was like, well, I guess that is the ultimate, like, justice, or is like you feel what you did to someone, not just like you, but you like physically experience it from the other person's perspective. And I was like, well, if you're going to do something horrible to someone, I found that interesting. I was like, that makes sense, right? Rather than sometimes people say justice is like, I don't know, throwing them in a jail cell or something, and or the death penalty. And I was like, no, I think whatever you did to someone, you should be able to, like, you should experience that. And I don't know. I started hearing that in life reviews. I was like, wow, that's so interesting. And then naturally, as you know, if you're into life reviews, you hear about OBEs. They're kind of like, they're like cousins.
Yeah.
And so basically I was like, wait a minute, people can pop out of their body, or at least claim they can. Just instantly I got hooked on that. Started going down rabbit holes. I think Mind Valley was the first place I went. There's this girl, I forget her name, Jade, I think. Um, and then I found Darius. And so Darius, just the way he talked about things, I was like, man, this guy's not trying to convince me of anything. He's basically saying to just try it yourself. And so I did. And we could talk about those experiences, but I'll pause for a second in case you're.
No,
That's what got
I'm
me
so
here.
intrigued, so interesting, because there's so many parallels, and then there's a few differences. Like the ND experiences, like I find them quite fascinating as well, but I haven't really gone down that rabbit hole as of yet. But obviously, like you, I've done the ADA experience, which was it's the ADA method, Darius's course. So I completely hear you on his sort of thought process, that they're, like you say, cousins, or they're basically the same, like a controlled ND is an OBE or whatever. And so you went down, you decided, you heard Darius talking about his theories, and you thought, okay, I'm gonna get this course and try it for myself. Had you ever had an out of body experience, or any, apart from the portal, anything beforehand? No.
So, okay, so I did, but it took me years to remember it. And I always thought that was so silly. Have you ever interviewed someone? They're like, I didn't remember it. And then like I did. And I was like, all right, dude. Okay.
Yeah.
It happened to me. So it's not that I didn't remember it. I just didn't recognize what it was. And now when you hear new terminology, like for example, sleep paralysis, I didn't know that happened to me twice when I was a kid. And it scared the shit out of me. It was hands down the scariest thing that ever happened to me in my childhood was those two things. I had two of them. And I guess I was technically in high school. So, oh man, but I didn't know what they were called. And so Darius kind of brought, like, I heard the term sleep paralysis for the first time. I was like, what is that? And I Googled it and I was like, oh my gosh, that's what happened to me. So it was a little bit of that, like realizing, because he said if you've ever had sleep paralysis, you're very close to having that state. So I was like, okay, well, if I did that naturally, and that was way before I started taking any drugs or anything. At that point, I was a Christian. I hadn't taken anything in my entire life. I'm a very classic case of, go to college and go wild, kind of. Like I didn't do anything until I was 18, didn't take a sip of alcohol, nothing. So that was one. And then I had, I guess the very first thing I ever tried as far as a substance, it's this stuff called Salvia. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Hey, is that it's like a peyote? Is it peyote?
Uh,
Similar
I
or
don't know
something?
what it's called, a dissociative.
Okay.
Peyote is, I think peyote is also a dissociative. Never tried that, but it basically, if you can imagine someone who's never done anything, like I'm not a sip of beer, nothing. It is extremely chaotic and it knocks your socks off. And I swear to you, I think it pushed me out of my body. And I haven't heard of other people having that experience, but I remember when I smoked, you have to smoke it. And I was with a friend. I was just back from college, like my first semester. And we were at his house. I was back in my hometown. And he's like, Seggy, why don't you try this? I guess he'd done it a bunch of times. I'd seen videos, Emma, but I was like, all right, let's give this a go. And I remember like right when I took a hit of it, I went below myself. And for years, I tried to explain it to people. I was like, I don't know how to tell you this, but I went below myself and I could see myself. But I had hands and I would look at my hands and I got really upset because I didn't know what my name was. And I remember that like it was yesterday. I was like, what is my name? I couldn't figure it out. And then I eventually merged back with myself, came to, and kind of forgot about it, to be honest.
So kind of like a bit of an ego death in a way, like you kind of
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that was
you know,
definitely a moment where I was like, whoa, that was trippy. So I've had some psychedelic experiences that were pretty intense. Like I took DMT twice, which is
you've
pretty
taken
gnarly.
DMT. Wow.
hmm
What was sorry,
Yeah.
what was that? What was that like?
So the first time was incredible. The second time was super scary.
Okay.
So the first time I think it was just my mindset at that time. Um, I was in my parents' house. They were gone on a trip, but like I felt comfortable. I remember that day. It was a happy day. So when I hit DMT though, again, I'd taken mushrooms before that. I'd taken acid before that. This was nothing like that. This is
Mm.
like,
Yeah.
I mean, from the center of the coffee table, it reminded me of like dominoes, but pictured like from all angles, like the whole room just like changed before my eyes. And I was like, what is going on? I saw colors I'd never seen before. I saw shapes I'd never seen before. There was these little like elf gnome looking things, creatures that I'd never seen before. And I will never forget their like face because they were playful, but also, I don't know, they were weird. They were interesting. So I had a friend who brought it over and I remember looking at him before. Let me back this. So before I looked at him, I had a Coke bottle on the table and I remember it would be like and like change and it was just crazy. It would like morph out but I was watching it and then I would make it change and it was just doing some
Oh,
wild stuff I'd never seen
so hold
before.
on. So you were able to actually manipulate it with
Yes, for
your victim
sure.
out.
Yeah, at least that Coke bottle. So I was like messing with it and just like kind of playing with it. And I remember just being like, what is going on? And then I finally looked up at my buddy. There's a lot of sensory stuff going on here. So I finally like looked at him and I remember he looked like Jesus to me. He looked like a god, like maybe not Jesus, but he had this like super loving energy kind of vibe to him. And all he said to me was, he's like, do you get it now? That's what he said to me. And I was like, yeah, I get it now. And then I don't know how long I was gone, but everything kind of came back to, and then like I looked back over at him and he was like, whoa, dude. He's like, you good? And I was like, did you speak to me at all? And he's like, I
Yeah.
didn't say a word. I was just watching it. And I was
Wow.
like, that was insane. And I just remember feeling
Yeah.
like this overwhelming sense of love though. Like for at least an hour after, I was like, whoa, I just felt love for him. I felt love for my parents. I just had that feeling. So that was the first time I took it. And again, this is like mushrooms. To explain to anyone who hasn't taken it before, it's like it enhances your senses. Mushrooms is trippy for sure. Uh, but I didn't see anything, like it didn't change my world that I was living in.
Okay.
Um, it more enhanced things. I felt close to nature. I would see leaves move in a way I'd never seen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cars and
Like
mechanical stuff didn't feel
trees
alive to me.
breathing and things like
Yeah.
that. It's like as if,
Yeah.
even though obviously they're alive, but you kind of get that feeling, oh my God, they are alive.
Yes.
The thing
This
not.
is different. So I just want to say this is like blasted me into another dimension. And I was like, whoa. So the second time I took it, I had taken a lot of drugs that day. So I'd taken a lot of Adderall and then I'd taken like some Xanax to try and calm down. I went to the bars at night. So we'd been drinking and I was smoking cigarettes. I smoked for probably 12 years. So I was at least a pack a day then. And so just imagine there's a lot of stuff to be
Oh,
taken
wow.
down. And I met someone at the bar who said they had DMT. My last experience was really positive, and I was like, "Oh, that sounds amazing." He's like, "We can go take it at my apartment." Like he had like a place that was really close to the bar that we could walk to. I
Oh,
kind of
wow.
knew the guy, so it wasn't random. Um, and yeah, we went back to his place, and I don't know, for whatever reason, this time it was incredibly demonic. So I'll
Oh,
say
wow.
that. So like when I hit it this time, I was up on his balcony and I was looking over like a dark street. So that alone started to freak me out, and like I just didn't like it, and I was like, "Oh, this is starting to like really creep me out." I didn't have that same like
Mm.
change, but things got really scary fast. And so I went inside and I started to panic a little bit. Uh, my buddy was like, "Are you okay?" He kept asking me if I was okay. And I kept telling him, like, dude, stop asking me that. Stop. And then every time he'd say, "Are you okay?" it would get like really deep. It'd be like, "Are you okay?" Like it'd be like this really demonic, like I hated it. And I was like, "Stop asking me if I'm okay." And he kept doing it and I freaked out. Like I remember
Oh my
there's these
gosh.
girls there that came with us and I yelled at the top of my lungs. This is probably at like 2 a.m. in the morning. I was like, "I'm okay." And I like was screaming because I was like, "Stop asking me it." And it freaked me out.
Yeah.
And I remember those girls' faces because like I kind of came to a little bit and they were like, "Wow, this guy's like losing his mind." They left shortly after, by the way. They were like not excited to be there. So that was my second experience. It was pretty bad. I just didn't like it. It was scary. Wasn't positive. So those are the reason I bring that stuff up is not to like, it's never to brag or to be cool or anything like that. It's to say that like I know what a state change feels like from taking something, and I was always blown away by some of the stuff that I felt, at least by this portal, right? And then we'll talk about my OBE like actual experience. Blown away by the physicality of it, and I remember seeing books of like, I don't know, or pictures of yogis, and you'd see these chakras, and like, I don't know, you just kind of think they're pictures, I guess. You don't think they're like physical things that happen. Um, and so when this stuff happened to me, like physically, it was more intense than anything I'd ever taken. And I was sober, and I was like, what? Like, what is happening? And I think that association of knowing what that feels like over here, and then having a extreme physical experience from the vibrational state, basically from the OBs, and being like, whoa, like that's real. Like it just blew me away, and it sent me on this journey. It was like, I got to know more about this. Like I have to explore. So I'll dive back into the OBs. So that was last year for me. It's 2024, I think
And was this
March-ish.
after taking the IDA course or before?
So yeah, no, so it was after. So
You
yeah, so
just
I came across Darius. I liked it. Basically, I said, you know what? I'm either going to lose 250, but whatever it was at the time, I'm either going to lose the money or I'm going to be able to pop out of my body. Because I'd heard, again, he talked about sleep paralysis. And so I was like, okay, if that happened to me, I think I can do it. And so that kind of gave me that little bit of confidence going into it. Uh, and so, yeah, I bought his course. I took it. But for people, I've seen other people say, I've taken his course and nothing's happened. Like it still took me, I bought it back in October. I didn't have my first experience till I think March, April. So,
okay.
I mean, it took me some time.
Okay.
I mean, it took me some time for anything to happen. I had little kids, so don't get me wrong, I wasn't able to do it every single night. But I gave it a good effort, Emma. I was trying like 3 times a week at least.
3 times a week. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And which method or which protocol were you trying out? Like
Yeah, so
yeah.
basically the one where, you try and let your body fall asleep,
Okay.
right? And so for me, it would take me 3 hours. I mean, it would take me a long time. So I would end up being exhausted the next day, right? Because by the time I would start trying, it was probably like 9 p.m. and then I'd be up till at least midnight. And then I'm a bad sleeper anyway. So it was just every time I tried it, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like staying up so long. Sleep is already a commodity, let me tell you, when you have little kids. So it was hard. And so what's interesting about what happened for me is like I was never able to do it on my own exactly as he described it. So I had some binaural beats on, I was laying still, all that. Um, one time I was able to shut my body down, or I started to feel it shut down. And again, for people listening, like you will know when that happens, again a state change. I mean, you feel everything start shutting down. That happened to me once, but it got me so I was so excited that I knocked myself out of it is the best way to explain it. Like I was like, oh my gosh, it's happening. It's starting to happen. And I felt my heartbeat like really speed up, and I couldn't help it. I mean, I couldn't slow it down. And so it knocked me out of it. The 2 experiences that I had though were, we'll talk about the first one. So I was probably doing this method, 5, 6 months. I was always falling asleep. I'd had the one moment where I'd shut my body. So I kind of remember like, okay, I got close that time. Um, and so I tried the method, fell asleep, and I was upstairs. So I was in my bedroom this time. And so my wife was asleep. I woke up at like 2 a.m. And I don't remember if it was Darius or if it was, at this point, I've watched other people and out of body experiences. So I don't remember if it was him or someone else. But they said, if you remember your dream, you're very close to that state. And so I'd remembered my dream. I woke up, it was like 1 or 2 a.m., forget. And I was like, oh, I remember I was just dreaming. It was like my dream is fresh in my mind. And so that whoever told me that, I was like, okay, I'm close. They said to get up, walk around, and then like sit down 5 minutes later. So I got up, walked downstairs, walked around for a little bit, and then sat down on my couch. And I laid my head down, and I just started repeating the mantra like, mind awake, body sleep, mind awake, body sleep. Again, no different really than other times I'd done it. So I don't know why it triggered it this time, but I'm just sitting there. And again, I tried for so long, Emma, that I'm not expecting anything, but I'm sitting there and I'm like, mind awake, body sleep, mind awake. And I started to feel it. It started from the center, like for me here. And it was like, it's like a train, like a train coming at you. but a vibrational train, and it's
Yeah.
getting closer and closer, and you're like, what is that? And it was this moment that I knew that this was the vibrational state. Because there's a time or two before that where I was like, I think I hit it. I think I hit it. Or like I thought I shut myself down and I think my toes tingled or something. And I was like, ooh, I think that's it. I think that's it. And so in my mind, like a couple months, like I've hit that state. No,
Mm.
no. For everybody again listening, I just want you to know when you hit the vibrational state,
You
there's
know,
no mistaking it. Even if you've
I'm
never felt anything like it before, I promise you, you will know. So that's what happened to me. I mean, it hit me and it started going. And at that moment, I was like, oh, again, I was like, it's real. Like all the videos I've watched, I'm now in this state. And so your brain automatically goes like, whoa, 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 whoa. You're about to pop out, right? And for someone like me, where my whole life I've been super scared of the dark. I don't know what it is. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know why as a kid, like my brother and my sister were never that way. I've always been scared of the dark and scared of people breaking in our house. And I don't know why I have that fear because I don't have anything. I mean, I had a great childhood. We never had anything happen. I didn't watch scary movies, like my parents didn't. So I don't know why I felt that, but I've always had that. And so now it started getting real to me as this vibrational stage is going on and you're conscious the whole time. So that tripped me out. Like I'm still me, like how I talk right now. I don't know. I'm silly. I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh no, this is real. Like this is happening. And then my mind's like, oh, you're about to pop out. Like, am I ready? Am I thinking good thoughts? I don't know. Like, I don't want to see anything freaky. And so I'm starting to get scared now. And I'm like, okay. And it'd been going on for a couple minutes. I mean, at least it felt like that. And then I heard a loud snap, like a redwood tree, like a snap. I mean, I remember hearing it was so loud. And I was like, what is that? And then I was like, okay, you got to like try and lift up or something. So I remember like trying to lift up and it worked. I mean, I just remember next day, like feeling floaty. Like I remember feeling, the floaty is the best way to put it, but my eyes are closed and I'm not opening them. I'm like, I'm way too
Mm.
scared. I was like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. And I don't know what made me, but eventually I was like, okay, you got to open your eyes, man. So I did. And then when I finally opened them, I was not in my room. Like I was not in my
Ooh.
apartment. I was above another house and I was looking outside and there's kids on it. I'll never forget this. There's like little kids. It's like a playground, little kids on a seesaw. And then like I watched them for a second and I was like, it's so weird. And then I looked like straight away and in the distance, there's these homes that kind of looked like the best way I could describe it is Greece, like those white
Okay.
homes that are kind of like
Yeah.
on the mountainside.
Yeah.
And I remember that looked weird and I zoomed over there for a second. And
Okay. So you
then
used your thought to sort of move.
yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I thought about it, and then the next thing
Yeah.
I knew, I was basically
You were
over there.
there.
So,
Okay.
however that happened, and then I basically woke up after that. Like it wasn't very long. Um, and when I woke up, I should find the text someday because I'll probably use it in my channel. But I texted my buddy and I was like, because there's one guy I told that I was trying this, and I was like, dude, it happened. I was like, no mistaking, it happened. I texted him, and so I'll find that text. I'll put that on a screenshot somewhere. But that was the first one, and so yeah, I didn't turn around and like verify and see myself on the couch. So that was so some people would say maybe lucid dream. It's possible. I just remember though, like it felt real. Like I do remember looking at myself being like, okay, this feels real. Like it just felt different than a lucid dream. And I've had lucid dreams, so I know what
Yeah.
that feels like.
Okay. Okay.
Um, so that was the first one.
How many have you had? Okay.
Yeah, so that was the first one, and then shortly after, it was like a couple weeks later, it wasn't very long, it wasn't like a huge span of time. I had my second one, same thing, vibrational. It was a dream. I remembered I had a dream. I got up for a little bit, sat back down, had my little mantra, and then it happened again. I started feeling the vibration stage. And I was like, okay, this time around, I at least knew, so I wasn't as nervous, I think. But I noticed that I still had the same fear of like seeing things. Like I don't want to see a dark hooded thing. Like
I'm the
I just
same.
don't want to. I just don't want to see that. And so I can't
And
help
this
it. And there's
time,
just like,
was this where you had to, so the first time I would almost classify that as like a wake back up method or whatever, which is the method that I use, which normally gets me into vibrational state, like
mhm.
easy.
Yeah.
Was the second one similar, like where you had woken up, or you had kind of, and then you, okay,
No, similar. I'd woken up, got up, sat down again,
okay,
and then just started. But
okay,
I guess the difference is like normally Darius talks about having binaural beats on, right, or something to stimulate it. He says you don't have to, but
wow,
yeah, I didn't have any of that. Every time I
um,
tried that binaural beats, never worked. The two times it happened to me, I was totally just like me. I mean, I just woke up, sat down. I didn't have headphones on or anything like that.
yeah. So
So
it's
second,
interesting because, yeah, sorry, I was just going to say it's interesting because that to get to sleep paralysis, I always find that you've got to, like my brother. So my brother, just to give you a bit of background, my brother was the one that introduced me to this about 20 years ago. And that was the method he used. He would always set an alarm around 3, 4 a.m. and then like read something and then go back to sleep. And when I was doing some monitoring on this ring thing, I always noticed that that time was consistently when I was like in REM sleep. So I wonder if there's something in
I
that.
think there for sure is. I mean, yeah, I think I just got lucky, right? Like by my timing of it, but I think 100% that's what happened.
Mm,
Has to be.
um,
Um, so yeah, I mean, that was the first one. I will tell you instantly though, that changed, that confirmed a lot of things for me. So when
mm,
I talk about my paradigm experience, that's what my whole channel is like those moments you kind of realize
mm,
like, whoa,
mm.
the portal of course was one, but you can kind of write that off, right? Like it was trippy. And I think it helped me pursue even more. Like I don't know if I would have kept pursuing something like this if I didn't have some kind of like experience. But that physical feeling blew me away just again from my experiences of having taken things and substances and all of that. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just can't believe how like physical that felt. And I'll never forget that snapping sound. And it just made me go like, okay, whether or not this is real, like it confirmed all the stories I'd heard Darius say. And again, I wasn't even popping out talking to beings, right? Like it was quite small for me, but it just, I just knew. I mean, at that point, I was like, okay, then I have to start considering other things, you know? Like, I was like, I have to start all those things I thought were wonky, like even mediums and stuff. I was just
Yeah,
like never into that. But I kind of was like, okay, you have to like start entertaining some of this stuff. You got to be careful. And I tell everyone that like you can't be like I heard a quote. It's like be so open minded that your brain falls out, and I thought that was great because yeah, you
it's a
gotta
great
still
line.
use your your critical thinking here.
Totally,
Ever when you go through something like that, it'll shake up your world.
totally.
That I think that's where things changed for me,
Okay.
where I was like, wow, I'm
See,
more than my
that's the
body.
point when you're like, "What? Do you know what? I'm not gonna just stay in this materialistic mind or viewpoint. I'm gonna kind of there's more to life. There's something going on here. Like you say, there's a
Yeah,
slight
definitely,
paradigm
definitely.
shift.
And so I
Okay.
started diving in even more. Like I would say, I started listening to more. I started going a little bit away from NDEs and more like OBE type content. Um, Because to me, an out of body experience is like it is the end of the road, right? I mean, you can channel a being or you can visit a medium, and I did do that after this out of body experiences. I went to my first medium. That was another paradigm experience for me, where like I talked to my grandpa, and it was so real that I was like, oh my god! It made me cry. I couldn't believe it. I was like, no way! And they brought up stuff that she couldn't know. I mean, there's no way. I mean, the best way I could put it to people is like, it wasn't like I woke up one day and I just was like accepting all this stuff. It was a slow roll. It was like meditation to seeing a portal to this experience to then seeing a medium and that medium blowing my mind. I was like, just all these little things kind of started happening. So the medium was after this out of body experience. But let me get to the second one. So the second one, again, not very long, same thing, sat down, felt the vibrational stage. I think I opened my eyes a little bit sooner than I did the first time. But again, not in my apartment. I didn't see my body sitting there, but I was in a barracks, like a military barracks. So
Wow.
instantly woke up. I was in a military barracks. The only reason I know that is because I saw like army boots and I saw like there's like cots, right? And it looked like people were being under them. But now looking back, it's like kind of creepy because they were all had their like faces covered, so like almost like they were dead. But
Wow.
I walked over to one and pulled the sheet back to where, and it didn't have a face, and it freaked me out. And I was like,
Oh my
well,
God.
put that back. I saw a door, ahead of me, and I instantly what's so fascinating to me, Emma, is like in these moments, your brain it blew me away. You're still conscious. Like, so you're thinking like
Yeah.
yourself. I was like, oh, that shit's scary. And I was like, I want to get out of here. And I look up, there's a door like to get out of the barracks. And I was like, I'm going to that. I remember Darius said there's portals when you open doors. I'm getting out of here.
Mm,
Walked to
mm.
that door, ran to that door probably, opened it. But again, it was physical. I opened a door. I mean, I
And
opened a
you
door.
felt the doorknob.
Yes. And but I don't remember like I just remember open door, and then I'm in a library, and I would say more of like a study, like some old British dude study, it was like really nice, like nice wood, like super tall library, like a nice wood desk, fireplace going, and I was like really like it was just quite a scene, a shakeup of the scene, and I was kind of like, what is going on here? I remember looking back at the desk, and then I was back in my body. So
Oh,
it's like
wow.
very quick. Um, very quick. But
So
now
when you saw those bodies, sorry, really quickly, when you saw those bodies, or just the environment you were in, did it feel old? Did it feel like previous time? Did it feel like the clothes, were they like
that's a good
military
question.
outfits that you would see now? I'm just wondering.
Yeah, they looked current. I mean, it didn't
Okay.
feel like super old.
Okay.
Um, yeah, it didn't feel super old to me. I don't know if I really sat there and thought. I just was again so blown away that I was there that I probably didn't look super hard. And I did. I got scared, so I dipped out pretty quick.
That's
Um,
amazing though.
so those are my two moments. Like those to me, where I was like, all right, you can tell me whatever the hell you want. I don't care. Like those were
Mhm.
real to me. If anything, they prove that. Like, I have people ask me all the time, like, "Okay, but what if it's your brain, like, just doing something?" Like, "Okay, then even if it is, like,
Like real life.
this is insane that you can do that, right?"
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if anything, it's another skill and you're taking your brain to another level. So even if it's your brain
100%.
making it up, I was like, "This is something you should explore because
100%.
we can do it. We
No,
can do it."
100%. I always find that argument just really, people are like, well, what if it's just a dream? Well, what is a dream? Like, sorry, but when you see all this vividness, and yeah, it could be just, some kind of simulation that your brain is, you know, creating. But like you say, like, let's explore it. Should we not explore it or question it, or question the validity of all of these things and go further on it, because it might be some figment of our imagination? Like, there's so many people having these same experiences, and as you say, like, just the physicality of it alone is enough to be like, hold up, what are all these people having, you know?
Yeah, and I've
So,
taken, like I said, I've taken mushrooms, for example, and I've learned life lessons from that, and I left those experiences where I felt like, "Whoa," like,
yep,
those were that was me taking something, and I knew I took something, and it changed my perception, but I still learned from
agreed,
that, and is that not a valid lesson still,
agreed,
right?
agreed.
So it's one of those things where, to me, it doesn't matter anymore, like, I don't care about whether it's my brain doing it or if it's really happening. Of course, what's interesting about Graham and the 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 person that you and I are both gonna learn from is he has a part in his, program where you verify it for yourself, and so I'm fascinated to do that. I wanna do that,
Mm,
and,
yep.
now I just wanna explore it more. I mean, I wanna, as you know, we've interviewed so many people, and there's levels to this, like anything, and people are going very far, and I've not gone very far, so, I
Mm.
want to do that now. I think that's my next goal. I wanna verify one. I wanna do that where I pop out in this world, turn around, and see myself. I just wanna do it once. And then from there, I wanna hopefully meet some really friendly beings and, explore around and not be, like,
And go
freaked out.
further, yeah. No,
But there's
I know.
something there for me. There's a fear that I know I have to get over. Like, I know I have to get over it, and that day is coming, Emma, and I'm just, like, I'm getting ready for it,
Me
but I want
too,
to.
mate.
I wanna
Me
push through.
too. Me too, because I think I am, I think a bit like you, my experiences, I've had similar experiences. Like, you've gone further for sure, but I already knew, or I already believed for my brother, because I was like, my brother was like experimenting for time. Like, he was just having, he never really got past his room, but he's a scientist, you know what I mean? Like, he's somebody's, PhD and whatever else, very logical. So he was very much like, how can I make sure, let me set the alarm at 4, and document the whole thing and try different things. And he did experience entities. So I think there's an element of that where I was always like, this entity thing, I don't want to don't want to see the entities, but have been able to get to the point of like opening my eyes and seeing well, in my case, it was like seeing my art phantom arm or whatever coming out. I'm like, ah, and I was in my room, but it was daylight. And I was nuts up, but it was so real. And I was like, oh my God, this is, and like you, I just wanted to, I just want to verify it because you know what? You see the out-of-body experience seems to cut through pretty much every weird kind of, every sort of experience that's on this sort of spectrum, whether it's the psychics, whether it's the mediums, whether it's the, what's this, this podcast that went viral, the woman with the, I don't know if you've seen it.
telepathy?
Yes,
Telepathy
exactly.
tapes or something like that. Whatever.
It's called.
Telepathy. There we go.
Yes,
Telepathy tapes.
exactly. Like, the OBE just turns up. It always seems to be like the portal. So for me, I'm in my head, I'm like, okay, this is my way, subjective way of being able to prove that this stuff's real. Do you know what I mean? That there's something to all of this stuff. And then the CIA declassified files, so the Robert Monroe stuff. Because actually, the
Project
Robert
Stargate.
Monroe, yes, reading Robert Monroe's book, that was when I had my first experience. I didn't realize it was an out of body until later because I just sort of thought, it's just, my hand went through the bed and I was like, oh, I've had the same experience that Robert Monroe had, but then I just left it. And then I just kept having that experience where my body would be in my bed. And I was like, oh my God, I'm having it again, but too scared to open my eyes. And then eventually last year, the Project Stargate stuff, I was like, hold up, there's something here. There is a smoking gun here. I need to know for myself.
For sure.
So that's my experience. But so you had these experiences. You're like, there's something here. At what point did you say, right? Oh no, at what point did you start your channel? Because
so I started in April this year.
Okay. And this was after you had your first experience?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So I'll kind of give the moments for me and I'll try to do it in order. Before I do though, I want to say, if you haven't read this book, Voyages into the Unknown by Bruce Moen, you should check this out.
Okay.
Fascinating book.
What is that?
It's about a guy who also, he went and studied by Robert Monroe, but he basically does soul retrievals. And I did an episode on it, and I met this guy who said he did soul retrievals. So I was like, what the hell is a soul retrieval? And he basically, there are souls depending on, like, for example, if you got killed in a way that was like super unexpected, right? Like you're like, for example, you were not aware that was going to happen. You got hit by a car, whatever the case may be. Oftentimes, depending on your belief systems or whatever, a soul can get trapped in that moment, and they don't realize that they're dead, and their brain creates this like this scene basically where they're stuck in this scene. It happens to little kids often. Like this, like he would talk about in the book where he would go rescue these kids who were like waiting for their parents still, and their parents told them not to talk to strangers. So anytime someone would try to come help them, they're like, no, because you can't force them. And they're like, I don't want to go. I'm waiting for my parents, and they're trying to be like, okay, well, we need to take you up to. And so it's this game where they're always trying to figure out how to like help these souls that are stuck. I mean, they're not. And what I find interesting about that is like in our movies and stuff throughout like me growing up, you would see kind of like, I don't know, you see little moments of that, like ghosts in houses and people talk about these things. And he just kind of is saying like, no, that's kind of real. Like souls do get stuck at certain places and he helps retrieve them. And I was like, wow, that's so fascinating.
That's incredible. That's incredible. Like what's the process? So you said you studied with Robert Monroe at the Monroe Institute?
Yeah. So he went and took some classes. I think it's called Focus 27 is where they go to.
Okay.
It's a fascinating book. The guy I brought on told me about it, and then I read that book. I was like, whoa. But let me go back. So for me, it was Portal in my head, right? That was like probably my first like kind of crazy moment. Then I went to like, I found the NDE, OBEs type stuff. Tried Darius's method. Did happen to me twice. From there, like that was last year, probably around March, April, around there. I had my second daughter in October. So I think up until that moment, I also got really busy. I was working 3 jobs. So I wasn't able to like go like right back into it. What I was doing was still listening to a ton of spiritual podcasts. I was listening to Next Level Soul, and I was listening to anyone I could find, right? So that was happening for the next 6 months. Go into this year, and it was January, and I was like, you know what? I've been wanting to visit a medium. Like I keep hearing them on these podcasts, and I was like, well, if that thing happened to me, like maybe they really are speaking to spirits, or maybe able to connect with the other side. And so I was like, why not just again go see? And it was my birthday, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna treat myself. You know what I'm saying? I was like, I'm gonna just go do this. So I told my wife, I was like, I'm gonna go see a medium. She's like, wow, okay, do it. And so I went online, and I don't know what it was or why I stopped in at this specific person. Her name is Betsy, but I liked her energy, man. It's just like her smile, just everything about her. She didn't come across as someone like trying too hard, I guess. Like like, trust me, you come across the mediums, and you're like, it's like, I don't know how I feel about
Yeah.
this. Um, and so I went to her, and it was one of those moments I left like, whoa, whoa. The first thing she said was like, all right, I'm getting a grandfather energy. Like, does that make sense to you? And I was like, I mean, I don't have anyone else in my family who, there's one other person, I guess, but that is the only person that she could have said that was on the other side. And I thought it was fascinating that she didn't say grandma energy. She didn't say an uncle, aunt. It was a grandpa. And then beyond that, I didn't tell her shit. Like, I didn't say nothing. I didn't even put my last name when I filled out the um the form. I put Jordan S. Because people ask me, they're like, well, can't she do like research? I'm
Just
like,
Google
look,
you.
come on, y'all. Like, do that on someone else. Like, you can't find out this intimate stuff. And she brought up some stuff about, like, she was like, I remember one of the moments she was like, he's sending me this like hippie image. She's like, does that make sense to you? And I started dying because my grandpa, specifically to me, would always be like, don't get too hippie on me. That's what he would always say to me. And it was just so cool. And she nailed, like, my grandma and my grandpa were never in the same room. They had a bad divorce. She was able to nail all this stuff. I mean, it was like constant confirmation, like confirming, 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 to the point where I left that going like, wow, she definitely connected with my gramps there. And so that also opened up this whole new world to me. I was like, man, there's so much more that I don't understand. It's like realizing Harry Potter's real, Like, you're sitting there,
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
like,
yeah.
okay,
No, I hear
what?
you.
And
I hear
so
you.
that was another big moment for me. And then I want to say, after that, I read a book about spirit guides, and I found that concept super interesting. I was like, what do you mean? We all have
Mm,
guides? And so I
mm.
read a book, and she talked about, why don't you prove it to yourself? Why don't you ask for a sign? You create a language with them, is basically what she said. She was like, create a language with them. Like, for example, when you see a golden rose, that means you're on the right track, right? To something you've been thinking about. Or she basically said, create a language with them. I was like, okay, let me test this out. And so I did a couple. I remember the very first one I did was a blue rose specifically. That's like, when do you ever see a blue rose? I don't ever see blue roses. And the next day, I saw
She
a blue
saw it.
rose. And I was like, I remember it was like one of those moments I was like, all right, I'm doing this again. I'm doing this again. And so I did another thing, and it happened 2 days later. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. And then I did another one, and I did pretty obscure, I did a black swan one time, and it popped up the next morning in a short that I was watching. I mean, I've done it 6, 7, 8 times maybe. And some I didn't see. So it wasn't like every single time I did it, but I'm telling you guys, I did some obscure ones, and it would pop up in my life. And it's a moment, by the way. It's like when you see it, because you forget about it. I got kids, I'm doing my thing, and you'll go to the grocery store or something, and your daughter will pick something up, and she'll hand it to you, and you're like, what? And it's got the
Yeah,
like
yeah.
black swan on it, and you're like, there are these moments. And so I did that a little bit, and that again was, okay, something's watching me again to hear me because I'm asking for these things, and it's happening. And then I think I'll just speed this up, but I came across this thing called human design. And again, any type of astrology, any of that shit, I would have said, get out of my face. I don't believe any of this stuff. But now I'm kind of primed. You know what I mean? Like, I've had some experiences where I'm like, all right, I got to look into this. And so someone told me about human design. You put in your birthday. I looked it up, and this was the most accurate shit I've ever
Human
come
design.
across about myself
Okay.
ever.
Human
It's called,
design. Okay.
mm-hmm. And it's a mix of astrology, a mix of like all these other disciplines. Basically, this dude channeled it back in, like, I want to say the 70s or something, or 60s maybe. But there's specific. I mean, it was more accurate. I've taken Myers-Briggs test, personality test. I've taken all that stuff. this thing nailed it, Emma. I'm talking creepy
Okay.
to the point where I showed my wife and she was like, and it was
She's like, no
specific.
way.
It wasn't like generalized. It was just crazy.
And
And
what's
so
it
it's
asking you for? What's it ask you for? Is it just your date of birth?
date of birth,
Okay.
time, and
Mm.
city. I think you were born.
Okay. Okay.
So,
Wow.
um, yeah, fascinating. So it said I'm a projector, and so to save everyone the time, a projector. It just felt like it knew my life, like just the way I feel, the way everything. And it says that I am best served by invitation. So like my way of acting on things is when I get invited. And so that could be someone asking for my opinion. That's an invitation. That could be someone literally inviting me to go somewhere. That's how my energy works. I attract things more so than a doer, like someone who forces things. And I looked back on my life and I go, wow, every single time I tried to force something, it does feel like it didn't work. And every single time, like something's, whether it was a friend invited me or I just went, said yes to something on a whim, those always led to these big moments for me. And the podcast was one of them. So one of my friends suggested, because I kept telling him about it, like these entities. He's like, why don't you interview someone? And I just kind of gone through the human design thing. So I took that as an invitation. I was like, hey, that's interesting. Um, yeah, why don't I do that? And so I just, one night I was sitting there and I was like, well, how do I do that? And I was like, I don't really know. Maybe I go on Facebook and search up NDE groups. So I did that and I joined a couple groups. I think I joined like 10 or something.
Yeah.
Half of them denied me and 5 let me in. And then I would just scroll and I would see someone have a story and I would reach out. I said, hey, I'm starting a podcast about near-death experiences. I've never had one, but I'm fascinated by it. And eventually I got someone to say yes. And I those 1 or 2 episodes like got an insane amount of views just for um I'd started other YouTube channels, what I'm trying to say. Like I did one on branding because I've always been into that. And I got 40 views, 30 views. I did one on email marketing because I was going down that rabbit hole. Nothing, got no views. And this stuff, I just like,
Yeah.
it just started running. And I was like, whoa. So like maybe I'm supposed to be doing this. And then someone reached out to me again and they emailed me after like my 3rd episode and they gave me a list of all these NDE people and like, hey, I got this email from a friend. I'd love to be on your show. Here's another list of all these other people. It was like 40 plus people, Emma, who've had
Wow.
NDEs and their
Wow.
emails. And so they made it very easy for me. And again, I took this as a sign. I was like, I'm not even having to work and like things are showing up to me. And then one thing led to another. I mean, it started, I got someone on who'd had an OBE experience. And then now if you watch my channel, it definitely is teetering towards that direction of more OBE stuff. So I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of letting it go where it needs to go, but I know me, I want to get back into the out of body stuff and have that be an element of my channel where I can actually speak to my experiences, not just interview people. So it's kind of going that direction. Whether it changes or pivots, I don't really know. I'm just kind of like
Yeah.
rolling
Yeah.
with it. And that's kind of what brought me to here now. So that's kind of how it all started.
Okay.
Sorry for that long ass
No, no,
winded
no.
answer.
I love it. No, it's good. It's good, and I love the because it's the journey, right? At the end of the day, it's like the journey takes you where it needs to take you, and as you say, to your human what was it?
Human design. Yeah.
Human design. It's kind of, it feels as though it's in sync with that. And out of all of the people that you've interviewed, what have been the most, would you say, like the stories that stayed with you?
So a couple, I think it's always the out of body. Maybe because I've listened to so many NDE ones now, like after a while, I wouldn't say they're all the same. They're different, but it's
I
the
think
out of
there are
body ones.
levels. There are levels to the outer body as well, right? You
Yeah.
know.
And everyone, I don't know, it reminds me of like, here's what I find fascinating. Just like in Christianity, there's like all these different like I forget if it's called sects or whatever you call them, but like there's different types of Christianity. Like there's just they're different. Same with out of body, and it trips me out. I'm like, okay, why do people not see the same shit? Like, why does this person swear that we're on a prison planet, for example, and this person swears that that's not the case? Like Darius, like not at all that. And so I'm always like, what's going on here? Like, what is happening to where everybody has these different experiences? So out of body stuff definitely stuck with me. The two probably the most are actually more recent ones. One of them was the soul retrieval guy. Excuse me. But when I found out that he's like, no, I do this all the time. I go and retrieve souls. Like something about that to me like seemed interesting to my personality. I was like, oh, I want to do that. You know, like in my head, I'm like, that sounds
So
awesome. Like you're
does he
helping
go out
people.
every day? Like, what does
Yeah.
he like every
At
day?
least weekly. I mean, he's like, yeah, at least weekly.
Wow.
He's
And
popping
he
out.
knows how to find them. He's got like a
Yep.
guide or something that
Yeah, he's
wow.
got a process now, and he goes out and he's like, I've gotten pretty good at. He can do it. He calls it his like elevator method, but he can raise a whole like room if he wants, and just fascinating stuff. And he told me to read that book. I read that book, and I don't know, like it's one of those things where I don't know. I could see myself doing that. Like if I'm going to go out, I'm going to ask. I want to do some soul retrievals because it
Yeah.
feels like you're helping people in the astral plane. Like whether that's true or not, I don't know, guys. That's what I'm trying to say. Is like I don't know, but
Yeah.
I want to go explore that. So that's one. I thought
Okay.
that was really fascinating. And then the second one is this prison planet kind of stuff. I guess this theory because I'd seen comments on it in my videos. People started saying like we're prison planet, and the first one I kind of like was like, whatever, dude. And then I kept seeing it, and then I listened to a David Icke interview, and I was like, I don't like that. That scares me. Not feeling that. And then I moved on from that, and then this guy comes on, and he's like left his body hundreds of times, and he swears this is what happens. And so I'm like, it just made me think again. I'm like, okay, let's not rule it out because he sounds crazy or because I don't like it. Let's like think about this for a second. And I think there's some things there that are interesting, at least in my own life. Like his whole thing was he said he's been scared as a kid too, and he would get attacked in his dreams. And I'm always like, well, I wonder, like, in my own journey, like I had moments, Emma, where I'm not one or two all the time, where I would wake up from a nightmare, and I don't remember the nightmare, but I remember I would wake up, be so scared, and I would want to run to my parents' room. And so I was the only one who did that, but I would get up, and it was dark, and I remember we had this hallway, basically like my room's on the opposite side of the house. So I'm over here, my parents are over here. When I go out, there's like an open hallway to where like the kitchen and living room are. So it's like open area, right? There's like walls and then it opens up and then it's my parents' room. And I would stop at the edge as a little kid and I'd be like, okay, go. And I'd close my eyes and I would just sprint and I would scream. I'd be like, and I'd like go running into their room.
Yeah.
But I always wondered, like, why am I so scared? Why am I so
You know
scared?
what? You just brought something up. You just brought back a memory that I had of once being 7 years old, and I actually ran to my brother's room, not my mum's, because I saw this I mean, like Gremlins, the film
Mm-hmm.
Gremlins. When they turn into the
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
I
The
saw
little
one in the
sketchy little
hallway.
suckers.
Yeah, I saw one in the hallway, and I ran to my brother's room, and I was so scared, and I was like, "Can I stay here?" I was so scared. I swear to God, I saw it. Like it was standing in the middle. And now, obviously, knowing what we know, and I'm like, was that an entity? Like, was I just like in that in between state,
Mm-hmm.
like as you're waking up? And because I had a similar thing, I had the same where I think up until the age of 6 in our old house, I slept in my mum's room. They put a bed in my mum's room, and I slept there. And I was always really scared of like the bogeyman and the this and the that. But that was the one
Same.
fade in my head where I was like, I saw this gremlin like figure. I turned and I was like, ah, and ran like. So sorry, just sorry
Yeah.
to interrupt, but
No,
I'm like, yeah, I completely
it makes
empathize.
me feel like either one or two things is happening. Either A, because they do say kids are pretty open to this stuff. So maybe that, I mean, either they're scaring you like unintentionally because again, you're little kids. So like you are seeing these things and they just freak you out. And so you're not understanding what it is. Or B, it is, I don't know, just something kind of dark, right? And the only other reason I like am entertaining, and I wouldn't even say entertaining is the wrong word on the prison planet theory. I just found it interesting because in my sleep paralysis, let's go back to high school because I didn't talk about those moments. Both of the times that it happened, I felt it wasn't positive feeling. It was definitely dark feeling. So again, could it have been my fear though? Possibly, right? Because I couldn't move my body. I remember opening my eyes. I was in my room, but at that time I was looking like straight at my wall. I just remember like, what is going on? I cannot move my arms or legs. And I was like, what is I kept trying to wait, what's going on? Wait. Because I couldn't move, but I felt something to the left of me in like my periffs and it felt dark. It's the best way I can explain it. And so that happened to me twice, both with this dark entity kind of feeling. I felt like something was in the room. And I don't know why I would feel that if it wasn't true, because I'm not making that up. I said it, the very first thing I said, I called my friend when it happened. And I was like, "Hey man, I think something demonic just happened because like I couldn't move my body. I felt a presence in the room." And he prayed for me. And at that time, again, I don't know, was it because I was raised as a Christian? They teach you that all that stuff is demonic, so maybe that's where my head was at. I don't know. And that's why you can understand my confusion of like why I'm here now and like have so many questions, because I just don't know. And so I want to find out for myself. Um,
Yeah. And it's interesting as well what you said earlier, which I think the soul retriever had said around, some of these kids get trapped in, I guess, their own, I guess what Darius call it, like their own, like, what do they call it?
their own construct, like their own like
Yeah. Construct, whatever, like their own thing. So I wonder if, how much do people's belief systems or pre-existing belief systems seep into, and how much of it is being experienced within their own like realm or construct or whatever the term is for their own sort of bubble, versus, yeah, like you say, like the real stuff. So like, can you go into a little bit of detail on the prison concept?
yeah, I'll go into it a little bit. I want people to look it up for themselves, because I wouldn't even say I believe it. I think I'm just one of those people. I like to experience all perspectives. And so it's an interesting theory. And only because Robert Monroe talks about it a little bit too. So here's where I think, this is why I want to take this with a grain of salt. Buddhism talks about samsara, and there's different levels, and it's basically this wheel and how to get out, which you could interpret as a prison, right? Where like you're kind of going up and down. There's this idea of a school that we're here to learn, right? And you can kind of see where that would be true, but you can poke holes in that too, right? With people who have horrible lives, for example, born in like why would anyone choose that? I can see an argument for both. Um, and then you have this theory where it's like we're stuck here and we generate this stuff called loosh. I don't know if you've ever heard this before.
Oh, noosh.
Okay.
Okay.
Um, so what I think is happening though, I think there's elements of truth to all of to like, I just think no one's pulling the whole thing together because of belief systems. So I want to say this. I do think that whatever you believe is what happens on the other side. And the reason I say that is because if you're a Christian, for example, and you have a near-death experience, a lot of times they will experience Jesus. Or if you're a Buddhist, you will experience Buddha. And I think my unique lens is that I've watched thousands of these videos probably. So I have heard a lot of testimonies. And so I'm of the thought that beliefs play a major role. To what extent, I don't know, but I do think it plays a role. So I want to say that first. So with some of these people that are convinced it's a prison planet, like I don't know their upbringing. I don't know what they had as parents. I don't know what their true beliefs are. I don't know if they had horrible things happen to them. I don't know. So just want to say that. But when Robert Monroe talked about it, so it's in his second book, it's the most interesting. And I'm sorry if we're going on tangents here, Emma, but I just find it interesting. So, but there's
I want to know.
it's, to me, it was one of the most interesting ways of like describing our planet that I've ever heard of. So he talks about meeting this being. He calls him BB is the being. I think he scientifically like labeled it BB, like literally the letter BB. And then BB had a friend, I want to say that's AA. So if you can get over how silly that sounds, we got BB and AA, right? But there are these beings that he met, and he was consistently meeting them. And I guess they were on some kind of like, this is going to sound funny now that I'm like thinking and saying it out loud. It is funny. They're on some kind of like a universal, like almost like a tourist like thing. Like they're visiting other like dimensions and worlds. And
Yeah.
there's a pamphlet that this BB guy gave to Robert Monroe that explains to them what Earth is. So it'd be like us going to like a zoo or something, right? And you pick it up like, this is the San Diego Zoo and this is how it started. And it was like kind of like that. But he'd been traveling with this being for a while before he even brought that up. So like he got to know him, he would pop out and he would constantly like go places with this being. And he explained it as like, if consciousness is the ultimate thing, right? And consciousness wants to experience itself. So it'll send you out. So let's say you, me, everyone else as an individual little piece of consciousness, right? And you're extremely curious, like a probe. You're just like this, the nature of humans is we are curious, right? And so there's this curiosity element. And he said this curiosity was traveling and it felt this major pull. And all of a sudden it's like getting pulled. And it's like, ooh, I can't help it. It's like there's this very interesting, I don't know why, but I'm getting pulled this way. And it would go this direction. More or less, the story was it got sucked into the curiosity of it. Next thing you know, it's being birthed as a baby. And it's like, wait, what's happening? Like, why do I have all these like limitations? Like, what is this body? Like, what am I doing? And it was a very fascinating way to describe, like, let's say Earth is this thing on the other side, and you get insanely curious by it because you feel beings that have this extra level of energy, and there's just this whole element to it, and you get sucked into it, and before you know it, you're birthed. And so that was one perspective that he was saying from that BB. But so he's with this being. So it's BB and AA and Robert Monroe, and they're all traveling, and they go to Earth. And the way he described it, he said, was like, there's this really intense sound of like, you can tell millions of souls. And he's like, it was almost uncomfortable. And there's like layers to it that you can kind of see from the outside. But the closer you got to it, the more pull you felt. Like there was like a pull to like a curiosity to want to check it out. And there were these beings that would kind of like be at the gates. So if you will, that'd be like, hey, so you want to go in? Are you sure you want to go in? Because if you go in, like it's intense. And I think BB was more like, I'm good. Like that seems kind of crazy. And Robert Monroe's like watching it from the outside. And the AA being was curious and wanted to jump in. And so it did. And I'm sorry if everyone's like has read his second book and I'm butchering this. I'm sorry, don't kill me. But this is what I remember. And so AA went in, and it was like an instant. All of a sudden, it's out again, and they're like, "How was it?" And he was like, I died at 43, and like I had this, like there's so much more I have to do. Like I wasn't able to do everything I wanted to. It was like, I'm going back, and like, wait, before you jump back in, like, and it jumped back in again, and you're like, and then it's back, and like, okay, you good? And he's like, no. This time I was like, I'm never gonna be a girl again. Like I was stuck. She was like, he literally said in the book, she's like, I was stuck like working all day, and then I had 12 kids or something. 6 of them died, and like my husband would come home and he would just like basically rape her. You know, he's like, I was just this thing to have babies, and it was like this fascinating story. She's like, I'm never doing that. I'm coming back as a warrior. And so she went back in, and they're trying to stop this being from like keep going back in. But it was like instant, right? So it would go in and pop back out, and they'd be like, okay, are you good? Have you experienced everything you need to experience? And every time basically would say, no, now that this happened, I need to do that. Or like maybe I wronged someone, and it would jump back in. And the longer you do that, if you get sucked into that, you forget who you are, and you go lower and lower in the realms basically. And so they got lost, and they kept having to, like, before you knew it, AA was popping out at different levels, and they would have to like, they're like, it turned into this big thing, and they're like, oh my gosh, how are we going to get him out? And they would go lower, and they would find him. But the more and more he kept popping out, he didn't want to go, because he either had so many more things he wanted to do, or he wanted to wrong his rights, and so it's just an interesting theory that I'm like, when I heard that, I was like, whoa, what if that's what it's kind of like? And in that way, you could see how it would turn into this like thousands of times before you realize what you really are again. And then you're like, oh shit, like I've been doing this forever. I need to stop going back into this game.
You
And
know
I don't
what?
know. It was fascinating.
Let me check. I'm pretty sure. Is that Far Journeys? Is it Robert Monroe Far Journeys or something? I
Yes, it
think I
is.
have
Yes.
it. I haven't read it. Yeah.
Yeah, you should
Okay.
read it. You should read it.
Okay. So I'm on it.
So
I will be doing that later.
take that story with a grain of salt. I could have butchered. That's my interpretation of how it was
Yeah.
kind of
Far
happening. I'm
Journeys.
sure I
Yeah.
didn't nail it, but it was that kind
No,
of
no.
thing, right? And so I was like,
Mm.
whoa. And so BB, this being, he ends up handing him this brochure. More or less, he read it, and it said that humanity is a place, and we produce loosh, is what it's called. And it's like an energetic, it has to do with our emotions, basically. And other beings harvest it and use it. It's like almost like a form of a drug, kind of, I guess. And I think both, from what I read or I remember, I think both love and fear generate like certain levels of loosh. And right when a human dies, it's like an instant, but it's like created, and they harvest it really quick. But then they want you to go back in, because then you keep creating more of it. And so whether that's it or completely true, right? it's interesting to think about. I was
No,
like,
no,
okay.
totally.
And the way he described it is because like everything here eats everything, like from the little bugs we eat, the microorganisms, and the tree decays and things eat that, and everything eats everything, even us. We eat plants and animals. What eats us? And so it's interesting that we always think we're the top of the food chain here, but it's like, oh, well, what if there is another level to this? And so it's just interesting. And I find Robert Monroe to be very like, you could tell in his book, he writes about it. He's like, when I heard this, he says in the book, it really threw him off. And he was like depressed for a couple months, maybe even a year. I forget how long he said, but he said it really messed with his head. And then he even starts off his third book saying like, he was able to get around it. And I think why is because he said he kept going back in and being like, can this be true? Like, is this, and something spoke to him and said, look, it is true that you create loosh, but you're not seeing it from the right angle. You can view it as a prison, but at the same time, you go in willingly, you learn these lessons, and you get to grow. And then I think they brought up the example of like, is it any good to a cow to know that its milk is used? Like what? Like it. Either way, you can't use it, right? And so it was just an interesting thing, and I think he came to peace with it. Of like, okay, well, at least I benefit by learning. And I think there is a way out because he said he would see these beings and you could tell when it was their last life. That was another thing he talked about. You
Okay.
can tell because they had this energy to them. And when they came out, it was like when you would meet a being that had finished the let's say the school of Earth and graduated, you were so obsessed with them that you were just like, how did you learn all this? I want to have what you have. And you'd be like, well, the only way to get this is to go through that school over there, basically.
Okay.
Again,
Okay.
I'm paraphrasing, so don't
No,
murder
no,
me,
no, no.
everybody.
I think you did a really good job of surmising it, right? And like you say, like it's true. Like sometimes we can go down these paths of like interpreting things, but actually, I think that's a really good point you made at the end, which is like it depends on the way you look at it. Like it's like a prism. Like there's loads of different ways you can look at that and see different colors and different,
Hmm.
fractals and whatever else. And yeah, I can imagine. But it's an interest. I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna read
You
it
should. You
over
would
the
find it
next few
fascinating.
weeks. For
So
sure.
those are the two like conversations I've had that are like interesting to me. But it's what made me go like, okay, I want to go ask. Because here's the deal, Emma. I swear on everything I love. If and when I pop out and I get the vibe that it's a prison planet, I'm gonna talk about it. And or if that's the case, I'm gonna fight like hell to at least try and get out or bust down that paradigm,
Yeah.
whatever's keeping me in that to see if I can get beyond it. Like
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go down without a fight. You know what I mean? And or
100%.
it's gonna be what everyone else experiences. And I would love
100
that too, like what Darius experienced.
100%.
So
Have you read any of the Seth books as well?
no. I have one
Okay.
downloaded, but I haven't read it yet.
Okay. Because I remember, like, yeah, around the same time my brother introduced me to Robert Monroe and stuff. That was another book he introduced me to, and
Hmm.
it's that the whole what's her name, Jane Roberts, I think, is the woman. She kind of channels Seth, a higher entity being, I guess, or entity that basically just has a different vantage on life. And I just remember from it, like that, maybe at that level, I think it's the fifth dimension. May have butchered that myself. But essentially you have all these different personalities. So kind of
Hmm.
similar concept, right?
Hmm.
Kind of reincarnation, I guess, but all experienced at the same time. And through that you gather. And then at the next level up, I guess, like you're saying, is when you graduate, you've got all of this learning and kind of, so there's way more to it than that. But it was a very interesting book. Yeah. Just in concept again. And just the fact that this woman was channeling this
Hmm.
entity. Her husband was like recording and documenting it all, and then they create these books. So yeah. Anyway, just wondered if you'd have
So
come
I'm
across
gonna I'm
them.
gonna take that as an invitation from my human design, right? That I should read that. So I will do that.
Do
And I
this
want to
book
make this
club,
clear.
man.
I I want to
Start
make
book
this
club.
like my views are still TBD. This is what I want to say to the audience. Like I'm leaning towards like I think that love wins. I just cannot
Yeah,
see
yeah.
a place where like it's just this big trap. Something about that doesn't feel right to me. And here's what I would say. If that is true, then I don't want to know about it. I'd rather just have my family and just keep learning and doing what I'm doing and experience good moments and love and try to be a good person. And that's that because I don't, otherwise, if that's the case, like who cares? But I choose something in me is telling me that's not quite correct. And I think that this hodgepodge a little bit of all these other theories. So that's kind of where my brain is at. Like, I think there's a little bit of truth to a lot of these things. I think belief systems play a huge role, if I had to guess. And I do think there's an element of school here that you learn and you grow from that. I can see through experience, whether it's super horrible or super positive, that you would learn from that, because I do now. So I'm leaning towards that there's like there's a rhyme or reason to this place. There's more love than anything, and I choose to believe that. So
Yeah, you kind of actually answered my next question, and maybe I can answer it or ask it a slightly different way, which is that, through all of the different spectrum of people that you've interacted with, interviewed, come across, how has your worldview changed? Like, and obviously, I think you're curious, like I am. Like you've got this intense, like tenacious. It feels anyway, energy about you. So it's going to change. It's going to continue to change, right? But when you first started versus where you are right now, like how's that? Yeah, how would you say that's changed?
almost think I'm more excited than I ever have been. I feel more like engaged in life. It actually made me enjoy my life more, because I will tell you, there was moments, especially in college, um, and then even look, when you get married and you have kids, like all of that is amazing, and there's beautiful moments in that. But prior to that too, like when my wife and I we had all this free time and we didn't have kids, and I had a lot of moments where I'm like, why am I just felt this numbness, kind of like I wasn't taking drugs anymore. I wasn't, but I still just felt like something was missing. Like, is this it? Like, you work and then yeah, I get it. You be grateful, and I don't know. I just, something was felt off to me. And this has kind of revived me, where I feel like, no, there is more. There is more to explore. And this is not just it. It's not just about having a family. And in fact, there's so many other, it's just opened my view. Like, now I view Christianity as a valid way to live your life. If it is a lesson you can come back multiple times, like, then yeah, why not experience life from a religious lens? Because you'll learn things that I wouldn't if I wasn't. So like my brother and my parents, they're all religious. My wife and I talk about this all the time. They're going to experience things that I will not have to go through. Like, if one of their kids was gay, for example, it's going to be a big deal to them. It's not a big deal to me. Like, I could, I don't care at all. And so they're going to have to go through their own shit with what they've created and believe. And same with me. And so I think I now view everyone's life as like, all right, that's a valid way to experience life. And it makes me try and view them as just another version of me, just trying to figure it out, and it's valid. So I
Yeah.
think if anything, it kind of opened up. It made me excited that there's more to explore. And then my perspective has changed, where I really do view people as like myself, just exploring things from a different lens. And it's all so very needed. Like, you cannot have the night and day. You cannot have sweet and sour. You need all of those things to exist, to that contrast, to fully appreciate it. So
Yeah. Love that. Love that viewpoint. And yeah, look, we've been talking for a while now, so I'll make these the last couple of questions. No,
no,
but it's been good. It's flown by, man. This, like, what, an hour and 15 minutes have gone by.
yeah, it's crazy.
Dude, so obviously I think we talked a little bit off air. We're both going to be doing a bit of coaching with Graham. I guess maybe you can talk a little bit about that, but also like your long-term vision for yourself and for the paradigm experience.
Yeah. Okay. So Graham, I love that you are also, because it means you felt the same thing I felt. So it gives me even more validation to pull through.
100%. He's the real deal, I think.
Yeah. Graham is someone we both interviewed. He's just a very scientific guy. He's probably one of the most tested OBE experiencers in the world. And he helps people with fear, for example, which is what I found interesting about them. Like, and I think that his mindset is something I need as a coach. Like, I told him about the prison planet theory. I told him about, we talked about it in our interview, and he's like, look, he's like, I just like, he diffused it so eloquently, or maybe, I don't know. He just was like, look, that's one person's perspective. And yes, there may be more that have that, but you need to understand that just because they had that experience doesn't mean it's yours. And a coach, I want that, because I know that I'm going to have fears. I know that things are going to pop up. And I just think he's the right guy for me, to not have me lean into any, and he's not going to push me in any direction. I love that. Like, for example, someone like Darius, not that he's pushing people, but he is 100%, this is what it is. This is a construct you can pop out. There's the soul records, there's, right? Which could be the truth. But you could see how, if it is about beliefs, you could see how if you learn from someone like that, that's what you would see. And so I really want to know. And so I like that Graham isn't going to push me anyway. And if I come out of my own experiences with the same feeling that Darius has, amazing. If not, it's okay too. And I think that's why I chose him, is that I feel like he's going to help me with that. So I went there. That's why I did that with Graham. I'd be curious for you, and then I'll talk about my vision with Paradigm. But for you, why did you choose Graham?
Do you know what? Similar thing. Like, so last year when I decided, right, I'm going to try and have a proper experience, I'm going to open my eyes, yada, 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 I looked for who was out there. And actually I came across Graham first.
Okay.
But I think at the time I was still like, am I ready for a coach, right? I want to maybe do something that doesn't require the commitment, yada, yada, yada. Let me just do a course where I'm like, with loads of other people in the community. So I went down that route, had an experience very quickly, actually. But I've just not really. And then I made this decision a bit like you, like, actually, I want to document it. Maybe actually documenting my own experience will help as well. And I put it out
I think
there.
you
And that's
should.
why
I think you should.
I started the channel like that. And I was moving steadily. But then, life happens. I'm like you, I've got 2 little kids. And summer happened, I'm not in my house. And I was just like, ciao. And then interviewed Graham. And I got that same feeling like, this guy's legit. Like, I love the fact that he doesn't try to attach a belief system. And it is very much like, look, let's just try and, verify these experiences. Like, and he's really pushing for that. And I think that's just such a noble, more sort of way of doing it, because you can. And I've always, like, it's not that I'm saying, look, everyone believe what you want to believe, right? And I'm open for people to have their own views. But for me, I've gone down I don't want dogma. I love to be able to dip in and out of things. And so when I was in the Darius thing, like, I love the content. There's loads of really great stuff, but
Yeah, same.
I kind of felt like I'm moving into something that's more than just, trying out some of this stuff. And yeah, I just want a one-to-one. I want the one-to-one time. I want the, all of that. And I just thought, and the other thing that sold it to me is he's like, there isn't just one, I know of, from Darius and others, maybe about 3 or 4 different ways, but he's like, look, it depends on your state, and it depends on, like, how stressed you are, what you've eaten. And I just like, this is holistic. And as you're interviewing people, you must have got the same. You realize that there's so many ways into this. You can go through mushrooms, you can go through Kundalini, you can go, there's so many ways to the out of body. There isn't just one way. And yeah. And I was just like, yeah, I definitely need to connect
Love
with
that.
Graham and go on that
Well, I'm
journey.
excited. I'm excited to have someone to speak to about it. You and I should do something. Like, I've always been, so when you talk about, it's in the same vein of, like, what are my plans for Paradigm? I have a lot of ideas, I will say. I write them all down. Where it goes, I'm kind of open to that. I'm just like, I'm letting my curiosity kind of lead the way right now. But yeah, I mean, eventually I want to create, like, shows. I don't know, like a series. Like, I know that, like, for example, if you watch sports, they have, like, these weekly recaps of, like, and they give their takes on what's going on in the world. Like, I don't know if there's a version of that in the out of body world or spiritual world. I've thought about doing something like that and experimenting. I would love to work with other people like you who have a podcast and just offer,
Yeah,
like, more
definitely.
perspectives. Something about a weekly or a monthly series sounds interesting to me. So however that plays out, I don't really know yet, but I want to
Yeah.
work on that. I want to definitely keep exploring on myself. That's my next thing personally, is to, like, pop out, do it consistently, add that element, that perspective into my interviews. So that would be interesting. And then beyond that, like, man, I have so many things I want to do. Like, I want to eventually I've created brands before. So I studied fashion merchandising in college. That's how I met my wife. I had a candle company back in the day that I did my own candles, made them myself. I got it into, like, 50 plus retailers here in the States.
Yeah.
I just like, I don't know. I've always, like, enjoyed that. So you'll probably see some apparel, like some real apparel, I think, could come from me, whether it be cut and sew
Nice.
or hats. I'm a big hat guy, so maybe I'll do that. But I will introduce that and probably try and get it into stores. So like there will
Okay.
be like like a spiritual brand, I think, that try and make it go mainstream. So we'll see how that works out. But um, I will do that. I have a huge passion for people with addictions because I struggle with that my whole life.
Okay.
And there's this thing about addiction where, like, when I first was trying to get out of it, they talk about, there's gosh, I'm forgetting. It's a 7-step method. I'm totally butchering it.
Is it the AA or
Yeah,
something?
but it's like there's like a 7 steps or something like that. But it always introduces an element of faith to it that I just couldn't get behind. I was like, I went the Christian route, and like everybody I'd ever known who struggled with addiction were searching for something, and a lot of it was this like higher power,
Wow.
which I fell into, but I didn't want to like go the God because it was always Christian based, and it just kind of bothered me. And so I'm almost wondering if there's an element of like spirituality I could bring to it to like give other people an option, maybe who would get out of addiction if it wasn't faith based. And maybe there's a way I can introduce a method that's spiritually based, so still about a higher power and a God, but maybe not so much the dogma and getting them back into a church. Um, and so like there could be addiction centers that I would open up. Like I really think on that level, like eventually I'd like to use this channel and this platform to like fund something like that.
Okay.
Um,
Love
just
that.
because I'm personally passionate about that. But I don't know. You can see in my, like, I have a lot of like, whether I do a podcast studio someday and I help other spiritual channels like grow their following. I have a passion for that maybe. So like I don't know. To be honest, like I don't know where it fully goes, but I
No,
have a
but I
lot of
think it's
ideas.
great. But I think it's great. And I think you said it earlier, right? It will direct itself in a
Hmm.
way, right? As
Yeah.
it has so far. Yes, there'll be a point when you probably need to like you bring in some of the other aspects in order to be able
Hmm.
to fund some of the other bits that you want to do. But I think you're doing a great job as it is. I love the channel.
Thank
I
you.
love what you're doing. I would love to do some stuff together as well, so we can talk about that offline.
Super
But
down.
just yeah, for everybody who's listening, if you haven't checked out the Paradigm Experience already, do it. Like, yeah, Seggy's just amazing interviewer, full of energy, full of curiosity, and yeah, man, it's been a pleasure speaking to you.
Hell yeah, Emma. It's been awesome. I was super excited when you reached out. So I appreciate you. Definitely let's talk offline because I think there's a lot of stuff we can all do. And I think we're all on the same page of just wanting to bring this to the mainstream. I think it's insane. Like again, I'm gonna probably wait till you and I can like actually pop out and verify.
Yeah,
However, it's just insane that we can do this. And I don't
I
know
know.
why there should be more people talking about it because there's a lot of value that
man.
comes from learning this for sure.
And I think it is gonna. I think it's gonna be hitting the
I
mainstream
think too. I think
pretty
we're very
soon.
close and
To
I
be
think
quite
it's gonna
honest.
blow up. And I think yeah, hopefully you and I are there to help people along the way.
Yeah,
That's the goal.
for sure, for sure. All right. Thanks
All
again,
right,
man.
Emma. I appreciate you. We'll talk again soon. I know we will.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Cheers. Bye.
Cheers, man. Bye.
I hope you like that video as much as I enjoyed making it. As always, please like, subscribe, comment. What did you think? Are there things that you want to know? Please leave them in the comments below.